for, oops, put the wrong. Okay, for the regular session of the select board on the 22nd of February. Okay, so if TV could accommodate us, could we have the flag, please? You all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You all please remain standing so we can have a moment of silence for all the men and women, past and present, who help protect us and our great country. And let's remember the healthcare workers who are still fighting the pandemic. Thank you very much. Please be seated if you wish. And we're going to deal with the warrant. I have a motion,
Make
please.
a motion that we authorize Mr. McGinnis to sign the warrants using our stamp.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. You're all in different places now. Stanley?
You
Yes.
can move us, Frank.
Yeah, I can, but it's a pain. David?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay. That takes care of the money. The first appointment we have has been postponed to a different time, has yet to be set. So take care of what's considered to be new business. And it's the Library Director and Board of Trustees Operations discussion. Ms. Antunes, you have the floor, or unless you want somebody to stage this for you. Your voice isn't on.
You're muted, Lynn.
Sean, do you want to set the stage?
Oh, sure. So we asked the library to come in, the library director, Ms. Antunes, and the library board of trustees, just to give an update on the operations of the library during COVID, their plans for reopening, and also, there's been some discussion about the status of the building, the new North Branch. So I thought it would be good for Ms. Antunes to come in and give the board an update on a number of these items. So she's prepared to do so.
Okay, thank you. Lynn, it's all yours. We still have no voice.
Happened at the last meeting also. Nothing, Lynn.
Simon and Garfunkel. Sounds of silence. I don't need to, so that's not going to work.
No, Lynn, why don't you call in? Do you need a number?
Yeah. So,
It should be on the Zoom link. There should be a telephone
Yeah,
number that you can call.
I don't know. I'll just give it to her, I guess. Lynn, phone number if you need to call. You ready? 929-436-2866. You'll still need the meeting ID and the passcode. I won't give that out because that's public. That's not public. It's by invite only. Mr. Chairman, in the meantime, maybe the chairman of the Board of Trustees can elaborate on some of the operations.
Sure, I'm okay with whoever does it.
I believe the chair is Stanley.
Yep,
Okay.
we didn't prepare any presentations. I had spoken to Sean last week shown and was told that just come prepared to answer questions, but what's your biggest concern at this point? And I can maybe start addressing that.
I think Mr. McGinnis indicated that one of the questions was how the operations for the libraries are going with the pandemic going on.
Well, we've been doing the curbside pickup for quite some time now. It's been very successful. In fact, we've heard from some people who would like to continue doing that even once we're allowing patrons in the building. They prefer to just pick stuff up in the hallway. One thing I can give you the comparison, statewide, 61% of libraries are still not allowing patrons in the building, and 39% are allowing them. And for the most part, with some pretty strict restrictions, some of which we'll have in place when we do open. We've seen some buildings where people are allowed to stay for as little as for only 15 minutes. So the days of people spending a good chunk of the day at libraries seems kind of gone by the boards in most of Massachusetts. We are now planning to open. Lynn and I talked a couple of days ago for quite some time, and we're shooting for March 1st, which will be a week from Monday. We'll do our initial opening. And there will be restrictions on how many people are allowed in the building at one time, how long they're allowed to stay. What a lot of libraries are doing, and I think we probably will end up doing also, is requiring appointments. Just it's not a good time of year to have a slew of people without appointment show up at once and possibly have to stand out in the rain or snow waiting to get in. So we feel appointments would be a good idea for the time being at least. And when we do open, people will be allowed to browse the selections of books and DVDs and such. So it's basically open 2 weeks from today with some restrictions still in place, and unless there's a miraculous vanishing of new cases, and we can go back to normal sooner than anticipated.
I believe Lynn is now online.
Lynn, you have to mute.
Mute your computer, Lynn.
Okay, I gotta get back to this.
Lynn,
Sorry.
Lynn, mute your computer. Bottom
I
left.
am.
Okay.
I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Oh, we got you now. We got you now. We're talking.
Is it okay now?
It sounds it.
Seems to be.
Yeah. I think you can hang up your phone. Just put your phone down. I think you can talk through your computer now.
Oh, okay. I don't know why it didn't work earlier. Yeah, so what Stanley was saying is correct. We're looking, well, Yeah, I really didn't prepare a presentation. I expected there'd be questions.
Well, that would be one of the
So
questions. Is what's the operations? How's the library been functioning since, the mass closures, since
Okay,
last April?
so we started providing service, had the staff come in as of
Oh, God. Lynn, you muted yourself again. Peter, can you ask her to unmute herself?
I just did.
Okay, thank you.
okay,
There we go.
okay.
Don't touch anything.
All right, I won't touch anything. Okay, so we started providing service, curbside pickup, which is what more libraries are doing that right now than actually have their buildings open. And our patrons have been very happy with that. It's a lot of work for the staff. The phones ring constantly. Sometimes we have 4 phones going at once with incoming calls from patrons because there are 2 phones at the circ desk, and the information services librarian and the circulation supervisor both can also answer the phones if necessary. We've been doing our usual purchasing of materials for the collection. The senior librarian and the children's librarian do all the selection work. The senior librarian is doing mainly the adult collection and also the online collection. And obviously the children's librarian does the children and the young adult. We've added 7,892 items to the collection since July. That means that the orders were placed, the packages arrived, they were opened, everything checked against a packing slip, everything sorted into which building, which collection it's going into. They go to the technical services librarian. They have to be property stamped and labeled. They need to be barcoded, entered into the sales network, and we are also adding our RFID tags right now. Once they're entered into the system, they're turned over to staff members who finish operation on them. It takes a lot of work to keep up with adding new materials all the time. So that's something that staff are doing, and it's keeping them busy. Let's see. We've also added 455 ebooks and audiobooks on Overdrive. Those don't require the processing, it's just selection. Our electronic resources, use of them purchasing ebooks online, because those are accessible 24 hours. Everything that has been accessible, even if the building is closed, it's not available.
Mhm.
Staff have concerns about, and majority of my staff are sick.
Okay, she's frozen. Sounds like your
Yep,
audio was also.
and she's gone.
She's gone. Should have hung onto the phone, especially since it was connected.
All right.
One other service we've been providing right along is the wireless routers are always on. I've swung by the branch as late as 9 o'clock at night and seeing somebody sitting in their car in the parking lot with the engine running and the dome light on, and you can see they're working with a laptop or a tablet. So that's another service we've been able to continue providing, even with people not being able to come into the building.
Stan, you want to talk about programming?
The programming has been going like crazy. We have a very enthusiastic and active children's librarian. I swear there are times it seems like she'll have multiple programs in one day. They're not a rare thing, and it's all done over Zoom. There was one that she did just before Christmas, and it was making Christmas ornaments, and she had one participant from somewhere in New York, and there was also one participant from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, who dialed in or got online and participated in the event. And the friends who've always pretty much taken care of setting up and funding adult programs as well as the children's programs have remained very active. I think they just finished or are just about to finish the art film series that runs every winter. This year they
Jim have lost his voice also.
You can't hear me?
Can hear you now. Before
Okay.
I like, it was your lips moving.
Okay, I must my volume must have gone down on my voice. I'll try to keep it louder. So in spite of the fact that people haven't been into the building, there is a lot going on. And of course, all of the other services that we provide online, there are a couple of ancestry databases that patrons can access. There are some that have computer user courses online for different software products. So we've still got a lot available. I mean, we've been saying for a long time that libraries aren't just books anymore. And things that aren't just books that you hold in your hand are getting quite a workout these days.
I think we should also mention the fact that I believe back in our October, November trustee meetings, we were discussing opening up the building to patrons in the beginning of December. There was that discussion limiting the number of people, the amount of time per person, setting up reservations or appointments, and then Dartmouth went red for COVID, and that put the kibosh on that.
So as long as we're yellow, your plans will go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
As I said, we're planning to open 2 weeks from today.
Good. Mr. McDonald, do you have a question?
So I just wanted to try to, basically, the services, some of the, even though services haven't been in full capacity, there have been services offered throughout the pandemic, somewhat on a limited basis, and now they're looking to open up on a limited basis by appointment only, effective March 8th. hopefully. They still I'm assuming that you still have to work out the protocols and and make sure that the Board of Health is okay with what you guys anticipate on doing. And at some point in time, hopefully there'll be an announcement by the end of this week to get everybody ready for the week following. You know, I know everybody, you know, this is a unique situation. Nobody's ever had to deal with this before. Hopefully nobody will ever have to deal with it again. You know, I guess we're learning unfortunately, for the most part, everybody's learning as we go along. We're bound to make mistakes. As long as we don't make them again time around, I think we'll be fine. So I guess if getting back to some normality means opening the libraries on a limited basis, then let's do it.
Okay.
One service I did not mention. Wynn worked with folks from the Council on Aging, and they came to an agreement on delivering materials to seniors who couldn't get to the library. And they came to an agreement on how it would work. And so far, we haven't had any takers. So there was one that we tried to institute, and nobody seems to want it so far.
Well, it's available. It's available. If nobody wants it, well, you can't, you know, as the old saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Are these services advertised anywhere so people can find them very easily?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties. My laptop's acting up. We have them on our webpage. We mainly use our, you know, we use our social media, Facebook. We've got the webpage. I should be writing an article for Dartmouth Week before, you know, for the letting people in. But people seem to be aware of them. I was looking at the numbers, and I'm trying to look at a lot of numbers.
I have no idea what's causing that, but it's probably not
Somebody's phone. It's some notification.
Let's see, we've been getting I got a total altogether. We've had about 10,000 patrons, a little over 10,000 patrons at pickup since July.
Oh, that's good.
Number.
Yeah.
That's a real good number.
It's our circulation isn't what it would be if we were fully open, because it's, you know, but that's not bad considering it's curbside, and the staff keep very busy with that all day long. What they do is people call in and they can have the staff place holds. They can place their own holds. Staff will go to the holds for. They'll check them out to them, then they package them up either in paper bags or wrap them in paper and put their first initial and last name on them. And then every half hour, we take a batch down to the pickup table in the back hallway. And sometimes they're waiting, I guess. And they know it's going to be on the half hour. So it's working.
That's good. It's hard to find your way in this pandemic day and everything. So as long as your patrons are happy, that's what really counts. So
I think most of them are. And I think some people will want to come in, but we're going to continue to provide the curbside pickup, though.
Yeah.
As Stanley said, because some people don't want to go anywhere if they don't have to go.
Yeah. We've even had some restaurants open and people still don't go in because they don't want to. So, but that's their choice. That's, you know.
Yeah. Like, I think takeout for restaurants is probably doing better. That's what we're doing for the library is takeout.
Yep. That's good. Mr. Tattlebaum.
Firstly, I think the library is probably one of the most loved institutions in this town. And just the amount of transactions you just mentioned when you're closed is amazing. And I know what it takes to do curbside pickup, because I did it myself for a month, and how difficult it is on a retail basis, never mind in the library. And you do a lot more detail than I do. I got a couple of suggestions. I think getting the word out to people as soon as possible about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. People want to know that it can be safe going in. There's no guarantees about safety, but they want to know what you're going to do. And I did a little self-inspection in a handful of towns and their library websites, and there's a list of some of them a mile long about the restrictions they have. And I would suggest that you have more restrictions than not when you first open, and then you can peel them away as you go forward. And hopefully you can peel them away quickly. But you don't want to go backwards, and you don't want to end up with issues. But on the other hand, you're an open public space, and you have to, you can do it. But people want to see it clean. They want to see it being cleaned. They want to get a sense that you have a plan, and you do. But I think you need to let people know what the plan is. Way you have an opening, they have to know what it is. And Dartmouth Week is a great instrument. I think you'll be amazed the response you get. And yes, people may have to wait outside, and maybe you'll have to, adjust once you open, because people are going to be real. There's nothing like a re-grand opening for anything. But I think that there's been a lot of angst about the library because people love it so much. But you had to be cautious, and I understand that. But I think that it's important that you have a lot of rules, you publicize them, you enforce them, and then you peel them away as you go forward.
Okay.
When I may have misled people, I think I got mixed up on the date. Did we agree to March 1st or March 8th?
Well, we had talked about March 1st, but another week would be good to get the word out and give us a little more prep time. I mean, I've had meetings with my supervisors about reopening. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting in November because we were hoping, Stanley said, to open in early December, and then those wonderful surges happened. Dartmouth just dropped out of the red zone last week, actually. So this is a good time to think about letting people in.
I would suggest you wait the week, but let people know as soon as you can, so that
Right.
what the rules are. Doesn't matter when it is. They want to know when and how you're going to do it and what your rules are going to be. So give yourself enough time to publicize it, so there's no surprise when they walk in the door.
Yeah, I think the 18th would be a better choice.
18th, okay, now.
The
8th.
8th.
8th. 18th, no, 8th.
2 weeks from
I don't have a
today.
calendar in front of me.
18th of September, okay, all right.
They'll be lined up on your doorstep all 3 dates. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Bill Chandler here.
Oh, go ahead, Bill.
Hi. Will the item on the town meeting, the spring town meeting, take up the matter of transferring the old library back to the town?
That does not have to go to town meeting. I talked to town council, so it's just a matter of the board taking a vote. So that's going to be at a future select board meeting.
Well, we did that. The trustees voted a year ago.
Right.
So do I need to send you another letter, Sean?
Nope, that's good. We have that, so.
Okay.
Can't wait to get rid of it, huh, Bill?
I'm still paying a couple of bills for that one.
Yeah. You can get rid of the pumps there to get rid of the water.
Lynn,
Anyone else?
could let the selectmen know some of the things that we have come up with as far as how you're going to be reopening with appointments, number of people let in, just so they have some idea of where we are.
Yeah, we will be asking people to make appointments. That will help us keep a contact tracing list, which is something the Board of Health will want. We're going to limit it. My staff, some of my staff are more conservative than my end. They were saying 12 people at a time. I think we could let 20, 25 people in at once. And we will be asking them up front, do they want to use a computer? Because then we can reserve one for them. Do they want to browse the collection? And do they want to browse in the children's room? Is it that they're going to have to come up the stairs and come inside and then go downstairs to get to the children's room? Let's see, we will have hand sanitizer as they come into the building. Southworth has hand sanitizer dispensers that were put up quite a while ago. So it's available. I have keyboard covers, which I thought I threw one in my bag, but I guess I didn't. But for the public computers, I have these keyboard covers. They're very flexible. You can remove them, you can wash them. I have a supply that, enough for the 2 buildings so that we can, because we don't have all of our public computers accessible right now. We've distanced them already. So they'll be more than 6 feet apart. Let's see. The restrooms get cleaned every night. I can't see us doing cleaning during the day. There's just no one available. I don't know. I'm trying to think of everything.
I think the best thing to do would be to put everything in writing, and then you can submit it to the board, because you're also going to have to submit it to the Board of Health for them to review also. And as far as the number of people in each of the buildings, I think that should be made in conjunction with the Board of Health, just to make sure that they're on board with the number of people, so that there's no confusion.
Yeah, they've gone back to 40%, I believe, but we don't want, that's too many people to start with.
Yeah.
As I say,
If the Board of Health says 40% and the Library Board of Trustees want to make it less than that, I don't have an issue with that.
It's actually the state that limits it to 40% right now.
I believe since we've moved out of the red zone, I think we're back to 40%. But even 25% for Southworth is a lot of people.
Right.
So I think Dave has it right that we'll start out small, kind of, and we'll add things as we go along.
I think she's referencing the state 40%, the governor's order, not the Board of Health.
Right. It's the state.
Well, whatever that number is, I just want to make sure that the Board of Health is okay with that number too, so.
Okay.
I would highly recommend that you go. I went to 3 or 4 sites, a town similar in size to us, like Somerset, Plymouth, Duxbury, Easton, and some of them go really deep in terms of their restrictions. What they do really thought it out well. And there's anything and everything you can think of, I think, is on these sites, not just those, because they're really well done. Why reinvent the wheel? You may pick off 3 or 4 things that make sense you'd want to do for yourself. You know your business as well as anyone, so. But I think it'd be a great idea to look it over, because there's
Somerset, Plymouth. What are the couple of the others that you looked at?
I looked at Somerset, Easton, the Ames Library in Easton, Somerset, Plymouth, and Duxbury.
Okay.
And they're big buildings. They're not small buildings like, the Acushnet Library.
Right. They are more. I'm familiar with.
I'm sure you are.
All of them.
Those are just some
of all of them.
I tried to be comparative when I looked, and I'm sure there's others too.
Okay, anyone else? Any questions, comments, statements? Okay.
We're going to talk about the construction in the new building at all?
I haven't, some news on that. The contractor sent people in today to start working on fixing the water getting into the basement. The amount of water getting in now is small, and it's coming from a different source. And there's been a lot of discussion at the building committee meetings, if it's due to the grading, is it due to the water table? It's really only been getting in when we've had a lot of rain. But they have started that. The building committee met last week, and we talked about the hot water heater. That's an issue that the contractor's having a problem with the manufacturer. We'll have to revisit it. We do have hot water for the building, but it's kind of a temporary fix.
So what's wrong with the hot water heater?
It
In
keeps
essence, I can tell
shutting.
you this. The paperwork that came with the hot water tank, the specific hot water tank talks about 100-foot run for air exhaust.
Mhm.
So that's basically what was done in the specs. The manufacturer, because of the initial problems with the hot water tank, the manufacturer was called. They hemmed and hawed. They weren't quite sure. They're going back and forth as to what was the problem. Now what they're saying, now what they're telling is that the 100-foot is for each.
Total.
For the total.
For the total
Not
versus,
each.
Not each unit, you mean?
right, basically, and what they're saying is, so in
50
essence,
feet-
what they're
50
trying to
feet a
do
unit.
is they're trying to cover their butt for a very poorly written way of the way you're supposed to vent the hot water tank. And
Installation
the
manual.
manufacturers,
Yeah.
the contractor did it by specs, and basically the manufacturer's saying, no, the specs are wrong. You read them wrong. I said, no, you probably wrote them wrong.
So
So
they're
eventually
they're
down the line, so eventually down the line, the contractor, the general contractor was given until basically next Monday to make sure that to get this situation under control. And if they don't, when we meet on the 3rd, if the item isn't fixed, I'm going to make a motion to send this entire thing to town council and have them dealt with legally.
So they're power venters, is that right?
Yeah.
Power venters.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, that's what we do that's one of our major lines. Power venters never go 100 feet.
Well, this was the interpretation of,
Uh-huh.
the way it was written is the way it was done. And
I'm
the
just telling you what-
manufacturer is saying, no, that's not what we meant.
Yeah.
So in essence,
Generally, they're at max 50 feet.
so that's the issue.
Okay.
David?
I got a question regarding the project manager. I met him only once. I'm not sure I'd even recognize him. It seems to me that in my experience, going through the police station building from start to finish, that I was overwhelmingly pleased and incredibly satisfied by the role of the project manager who addresses all these kinds of issues. And what can you comment on the role of our project manager and the role he's taken in terms of trying to get all this done? It's been a long time. Anybody answer that question?
You or Sean, do you want to do it?
Well, I mean, I could say they're both good project managers. P3 is the company that's doing the library. You have to remember the library was on a very tight budget. They did not have much of a contingency. So I think the project manager and the building committee and the architect did a very good job of completing that building on such a tight budget. There are generally construction issues that go along with any new construction. I think they've been dealing with them. In my experience, that everybody's been working hard to resolve all of the issues. Some of these things just happen as part of being a new building. The water issue, I think they've worked diligently to resolve. They're getting closer to, like Lynn was saying, it's not as bad as previously. So I think these are issues they're going to get resolved. They're working hard. They're just different buildings with different circumstances. So I think they're both capable. Both project managers and both jobs were.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I guess we're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
Thank you.
your
Good luck.
Thank
Everyone
you.
look forward. Everyone look forward to it.
Thank you.
Sorry about all the technical difficulties.
That's
What'd you
okay.
say?
It wouldn't be a Zoom meeting without it.
No.
Yes, it has that all the time, so.
Cheer up. I did it on my tablet.
Way to go, Bill.
Good job, Bill.
Okay, I guess we can move on. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, item B, appointment to Veteran Advisory Board, Mr. David Rucker. Welcome, David.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear my voice?
Clearly, yes.
You can. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I've actually never used a Zoom meeting before. I've used similar apps, but not Zoom. Yeah, I had I believe I was invited to this meeting because I had expressed interest in joining the Veteran Select Board.
Yep. I think we've all read the paperwork that came with the package. Does anybody has any questions for David or?
Oh, I think he'd be a fine addition, so I make a motion that we approve David Rucker as a member of the Veterans Advisory Board.
I'd gladly second that.
Okay, thank you.
Great. I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much.
And we appreciate your stepping up. Thank you.
Okay, roll call
No
vote.
problem.
Mr. Tattlebaum,
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Herron,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Welcome, David. Thank you for your volunteering and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks for
David.
joining.
Okay. Item C, appointment to Assistant Animal Control Officer, Stacy Rebello. Hi, Stacy.
Hi.
Okay.
Is that you, Dave?
Yeah, it was. That was one of my cats here.
It was heartburn. Mr. McGinnis, do you want to frame this?
Yes, Stacy Rebello has been an employee for a number of years. She has been out on workers' comp, so she is now coming back to work. But as annually, she needs to be appointed by the select board as the assistant animal control officer. So now that she's coming back to work, she needs to be appointed. One thing to keep in mind, Stacy is required by the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources to be certified as an animal control officer. She needs to complete those CEUs before she can work as an appointed animal control officer. So this board would have to appoint her contingent on her completing those continuing education unit credits.
Okay. And Stacy, I assume you're familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Motion to appoint with the issues of the doing whatever she needs to do, take tests for the job.
CEUs, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
You want to appoint her?
I think the motion would be better to appoint Stacy Rebello as the Assistant Animal Control Officer pending completion of the CEUs.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is that okay with you, Mr. Mickelson? He
Sure. Yeah.
changed a few words, but that's pretty much the same thing. Okay. Okay.
What's the timetable on the test?
They need to be completed by December 31st, but that was as of August. And I think every year there's 9 credits due. So she would need to complete the 9 from last year and I believe 9 for this year by December 31st of this year.
So what's the potential first workday?
That's up to Stacy.
Not until then.
Yes.
Okay. The dog.
There's a motion from the back.
Yeah.
Two refs.
We have a proof for every meeting.
She just took the test.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Tattlebaum?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Herron?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Good luck, Stacy, and congratulations.
What do we do in the meantime? Waiting for Stacy to get on board?
We have staffing. We have the animal control officer and another assistant.
Okay. Good luck, Stacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, item D, town meeting article, 30-year lease for McBratney property, a discussion.
Yes, at the last select board meeting, there was a discussion with Mr. Burgo was in to talk about the Burgo property and the board's desire to have a 30-year lease on the property. It was left at that meeting that I would work with town council, Attorney Savastano, to draft the warrant article language that would be used if the select board approves at town meeting to lease the property for up to 30 years. And you can see in the packet is the wording that Attorney Savastano had drafted.
Okay, any questions? John?
This language we're going to use is going to be pertaining to both parcels of property in the future, should anyone else request a 30-year lease, correct?
This particular wording is for that particular property only. So Attorney Savastano can answer, but I think it would be recommended that it's done for each individual parcel.
And it's only the two under our jurisdiction. And that's the McBratney parcel and Crapo Field.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
Okay. So, Mr. Savastano, that means we'd have to address each of them individually. It's not a blanket.
Yeah, if the other one were to come up, if you wanted to add that, we would draft a separate warrant article for that particular one. I don't think it would be that much different, but I would have to look at it.
It would be just the name and the description and the assessors maps and the acreage.
The difference I see by not including it is that's multiple trips to town meeting, as opposed to doing it all at once for the two parcels.
It should be, each one should be specific.
Yeah, each parcel is unique.
Right. So each one should be specific.
Okay.
Just like the lease is specific to each one.
Okay, Mr. Herron?
I did a little checking, and City of New Bedford years ago used to give 99-year leases. And I checked a couple of fish plants in New Bedford, and they were some 50-year leases. So other towns and cities do go for lengthy leases to accommodate issues and people.
Much larger projects, I must say. Employing much more employees too.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the suggested wording?
No, the wording is fine with me. Make a motion to approve.
You don't have to vote. You don't have to vote on it.
No?
It will be in the warrant that you vote on
Okay, that sounds good to me.
for town meeting. It's just for your review and comment.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
Do we have, two leases that are like this? How many other leases are there in town that are in some way similar to this?
The park board has 3 and the school has 2 properties. I could be wrong. 1 or 2. The park board has 3 and the school has 1 or 2.
And these
And-
are,
and-
They're similar,
Sorry.
leases, but different. But they're along the same lines. They're used by the recreation groups.
so this is town-owned property with leases to these organizations.
Correct.
So there's 4, 5, or 6 of these kind of things out there, whatever.
Yeah, but even if town meeting approves it, they still have to go out for
Individual. Yeah.
for bids, because somebody
Yeah.
would have a higher desire.
Individually.
Right.
Right. What about the language of these leases? There's a rent issue with all of them, and there's a number a dollar value for these leases, whatever they have, 5 years, 10 years, 7, whatever. Where are we with that? Collections of rents.
I can say generally in most of the lease agreements, there's a deduction in the dollar amount of rents for in-kind services or maintenance or in upkeep, and they vary. But generally, it's based on maintenance of the property or improvements to the property that they can deduct the dollar amount of the rent. So if the board wants to look at that in the future when leases come up and are renewed, if they want to restructure the leases in some other way to have a dollar revenue or to make it different structure for maintenance and upkeep or eliminate that, it's entirely up to the board for discussion. We can look at that as the leases, as each individual lease comes up. But if the board wants to do something more broad, we can certainly look at that, and I can present something in the future.
So,
Right,
so
and
do
they're
we,
supposed to provide evidence of whatever they've done for in-kind service.
it substantiate that number, yes. So do we have any numbers, Mr. McGinnis, over the years of monies being, checks being written to the town for?
Generally, no, we have not received historically monetary payments, but there's been in the lease agreements, like I said, there's either maintenance or improvements of the property or services offered to the public, in-kind services that have a dollar value that they use. The leasees are required to file annual reports. They generally haven't been diligent about that. We're going to, we discussed this at the last meeting, and we're going to follow up and make sure that all the annual reports are submitted by the leasees.
So the town has not followed through on these issues. Shame on us.
I believe
I just have
been some. I believe there has been some reporting in the past.
Well, I mean, I
don't know if it's consistent though.
I know one of the organizations that pays all the time. It's not a lot, but they do their due diligence and they take care of it. But more importantly, I think it's going to go before town meeting again. Well, not again, but another article like that, similar. But I don't know. I did speak with 3 or 4 of the organizers of the soccer and girls D-Gal. Nobody wants a 30-year lease. Not any of these organizations. They don't want to, number one, they don't know what's going to go on in 10 years, never mind 30 years. So I think, and it might be offered to that particular property, but I don't think we're not going to have anybody that's going to want a 30-year lease. The other thing is, I think, and I think we had some discussions at that last meeting, that there was something mentioned about going back to a 10-year lease. And I think the town has the stomach for a 10-year lease. I don't think the town has the stomach for a 30-year lease. And I, for one, would be the first one to sign that lease, a 10-year lease. I think 30 years is, again, we're going to talk about properties that the town, we own very few pieces of property. How can we, in good conscience, tie up that property for 30 years? At 10 years, I can buy into that without a doubt. But 30 years is a huge stretch. We don't know. You're not going to be around, Frank, neither am I. But the fact is that we don't know what's going on in 30 years. We don't know what's going on in the 10 years, but 30's a stretch. We have to be careful.
Mr. McDonald.
Whether or not any other organization wants to go 30 years, that's up to them. If they approached the entity that they are currently leased with and requested a 30-year lease, I would hope that that entity would entertain the discussion. This came before us. We're entertaining the discussion. We voted on an article to pass. I think town meeting has the stomach to do this. Town meeting has willingly supported this entity on this particular parcel in the past. And I think, and I wholeheartedly believe that they will continue to do so. So I don't have a problem with a 30-year lease here. I don't have a problem with a 40-year lease here. Okay. I just think it's something that is right. The entity that is currently on the property says that they have the ability to upgrade the facility further with a 30-year lease, and I want to take his word for it, or their word for it. So I don't have a problem going forward with this, and I don't think any of us should have a problem going forward with this.
Anybody else? David.
I'm all for allowing town meeting to make this decision because it's a big one, it's an important one. And should town meeting accept it, I then would look forward to looking at all the detail of a lease going forward, of a 30-year lease, what it meant for the town, for the organization. And that's when the real roll up your sleeve work starts, because the town said yes, but then it's up to us to put together a package, a deal that works for everybody. So this is step one in a long process, and I'm all for it, letting town meeting decide. But it's only about a 30-year lease to work. The town says yes, great, and then we roll up our sleeves and try to make a deal on the details.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. So we don't have to do anything else with that. And, it'll move forward for a town meeting. Okay. Let's see. Next item. Item E, no hate policy. David Tattlebaum and Mike Gagne.
Yeah, I'm going to sign off unless you need me for anything else, Mr. McGinnis.
Nope. Thanks, Anthony.
Okay.
Thanks,
Good
Tony.
night. Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Good night, David. Good night, Anthony.
Hi, Dave.
I'm not going anywhere, Frank. Too bad.
Yeah.
John McDonald probably wants to mute me by now, but I'm not going anywhere. Okay. Just kidding, John. Just kidding.
Mr. Gagne, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is everybody fed? Mike?
I'm sorry.
Everybody got fed?
Yeah, that's all I heard. Wet but fed.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, good evening, board members. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, loud.
Good. I've had an opportunity to talk to Dave, and I come before you this evening to discuss the idea of the Board of Selectmen appointing a task force of individuals to look into the issue of whether or not Dartmouth might consider the development of a no hate in my community policy. There are 24 cities and towns in Massachusetts that have such a committee. And I think Dartmouth has gotten to the size with 35,000 people and 8,500 students over at UMass Dartmouth when they're in session, and another 16,000 folks who come into our town every day to work, that we would ask the professionals that work in your various departments to look into the issue of whether or not we could become the 25th community to have such a policy. I don't need to certainly go into what has been historically happening throughout the United States on issues that manifest themselves in discrimination as it relates to religious, racial, gender orientation, political, and even personal views. I think it's been a rough ride the last year in this particular regard, and I think our community has gotten to the point where at least we should ask our professionals in the various departments, such as the police department, your council on aging, your school department, representatives from the university, if it is something that we could develop such a policy and have a standing committee. If you go on a search and you look at some of the communities, they actually have web pages that give information to people as far as services and assistance and where to get assistance, for various age groups within your community. And I really think it would be beneficial for us to at least look into the issue and have a committee report back to the selectmen in a couple of months as to what their findings are and if they would make a recommendation on this regard. Thank you.
Okay. Now, this is for our community itself. This is not in response to any specific issue. It's just a general overview to cover issues that may turn up. Is that correct?
Right. You do hear of some issues in the greater New Bedford area. I think you will see that Mayor Mitchell is looking at this issue very strongly with, a couple of groups in the city of New Bedford. But I don't know, maybe it makes more sense to get ahead of this issue and have some policies in place. So if we ever do get into some situations, at least there are resources and we've thought about it and we've come up with an approach on how to, to address it.
Sure. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Talbot?
When Mike first approached me, we had some lengthy discussions about it. In the end, you couldn't think of a more compassionate and talented individual to try to put this together. As you can see, he's going to far reach into town, to all facets of town, be it the university and be it our youth advocate, and many players try to put together a very comprehensive committee, and let it go where it's going to go and come back to us. But it has marvelous potential, and it has great insight into staying ahead of the curve. And I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And I'm really proud to be alongside Mike here and trying to make this thing happen. And I hope that you all can support this as well.
Mr. McDowell.
Yeah, Mike, Mr. Gagnon, how you doing?
Agnew, what about Mike?
Well, just being polite here. The committees and other communities, about generally what's the average size?
I actually had picked up Plymouth's and looked at it. I believe the committee, I think, had either 7 or 9 on it, but it wasn't a task force to look at the issue. It was the ultimate standing committee that the Board of Selectmen in Plymouth appointed.
Okay. All right, because because right now I'm looking at segments of the community, and I have 6 that I'd like at least a representative of, if not maybe more. So I would think probably around 9 would probably be a good, because I'm looking at, I would like a representative of the police, schools, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 1 from the upper grade and 1 from the lower grade, council on aging, youth advocate, or I would want to see the youth advocate, not a member of the youth commission. I think that's important to have the advocate available. At least 1 or 2 people from UMass, whether it's somebody from the staff and somebody from the student population. Board of Health, I think it should be something in this. So if you have that number automatically right now creeps up to about 8, maybe just maybe somebody from the general public. So you're talking 9, somewhere around that vicinity, I think is a good number. I think anything beyond 9 gets to be a little, I guess, I don't know. It can be a little convoluted, but I think 9 is a good focus number.
I think for the task force, you did present a good cross representation of the areas that Dave and I talked about that we should cover. I think once the task force has done their job over the next 2-month period, and they report back, and it is something favorable that the Board of Selectmen would, be looking to do, then you might scope the committee, in a number of, be it 5, 7, and, that would be the standing committee. But I think input from those entities that you mentioned, and especially the university, I think would be a big help. It's amazing. There's 8,500 students up there, both commuters and residents, when they're in full swing. That's a big population.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the task force numbers. I mean, I would at least want to see, some representatives from that group, on the task force too. So,
Sure.
And then from there, more than likely, whoever's on the task force may want to continue to be on the standing committee.
One of the web pages that Dave and I found very enlightening, and it's actually got a very simple address, and I'll give you the acronym for it. It's NIOT. It's NIOT.org. A tremendous amount of work has been done. They actually have a handbook in there. They have recommendations for governmental officials, for the community. Somebody really did a fantastic job. So if the press, and the newspaper are watching, I would strongly encourage them to put that web address so the folks in the community can see, how nationally they encourage this sort of thing, and how
they put resources out there to help everybody.
Wonderful.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of stuff out here.
So I asked the group, is there interest in doing this? And if so, how do we move forward?
I think I think the interest is there. I think this is something we can support, and I think we should have a task force. Task force can be any number of people, but I think we should reach out to each of the segments that that I had that is being discussed and see if there's people in that segment who like to be on the task force. I know Sean can reach out to the UMass Dartmouth on that end. So
We need to vote on this, Mr. Chairman?
yeah, I think we should need to make a motion to create the task force.
I make a motion to do that.
Yeah, that's where I was headed.
And how many, do you want the 9 people on the task force, or do you want?
The task force, I think, can be any number, which willing to send. I mean, let's put it this way: you contact UMass Dartmouth, and they say, "Well, we can send 5 people over." Oh, okay, that's fine. This is just it's a brainstorming. So,
And am I right? It'll only be for a couple of months, 2 to 3 months, that these
a period of time.
Put that together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think giving the task force a finite time makes a lot of sense, because then the thing doesn't linger, and the selectmen are given the information that the task force has come up with, and then you as the policymakers can make a decision on a permanent standing committee.
The town of Dartmouth.
August. Let's give them to the end of August. That gives that 6 months. I think that's reasonable.
6 months, you're talking about 60 days.
Yeah, 60 days is kind of tough.
Well, that's what he wanted. That's what. Mike?
Yeah, I had originally thought of a 60-day. Maybe we give it 3 months, 90 days.
90 days.
And then at least the committee could come back and report to you at 90 days. And if they need more time, they would ask for more time.
That's fine.
Good.
Okay.
And the town of Dartmouth has been a leader in many interesting plastic bag bylaw, green community, and go on and on and on. We've been leaders. I think we need to step up again and be leaders in this.
2 people come to mind that I know, if they were living today, would work very hard on this. Alvin Glazer and Father Phil Kelly.
Yep.
Yeah.
This would be right up their alley.
Sure.
Amen.
Certainly would.
Well, there are people out there that will.
We need to vote.
They'll step up to the challenge. Believe me.
It sounds like
make a motion to have Mr. Gagny do the was it 9 people, 15 people? And
just a task force. Just don't limit the task.
Yeah, forget it. The numbers. Just a task force that would represent the town.
Okay, how do we solicit some of the town functions? We can certainly do that directly.
What I can do is I'll send over to Sean a list of people that we think would be good for the committee. And then, you can reach out to them, and then a newspaper could advertise, also that, members for the task force are, to send in some notification to Sean, and then that way we could get, in a couple of weeks, we could get underway with the work.
Okay. Yeah, I was mostly concerned with people that are not in the government, as you covered, to let people get an awareness of what we're doing moving forward, and whether they have any interest in participating in it. So certainly Dartmouth could be good help in that, for sure.
One of the things that I think is important too, in the makeup, I would like to see 1 or 2 members of young adults. And I'm starting to sound like an old fart when I say young adults, but somebody from who's graduated high school, but is still within, that 18 to 25 peer group. I think that's important because I know that group is pretty much out front with a lot of things, social causes. So I would like to see something like that. And I do have one person who's possible for it. And I'll just say the name out, Amy McGonigal.
Yep.
I think she might be a good person to contact. I think you could probably contact her through her father, Ian. So.
Are we saying that we have to approve the task force itself, or all we're doing is recreating it, allow it to be created, then report back in 90 days?
Yes, exactly that. Creating the task force and reporting back to us in 90 days.
Period.
That's it.
That was an amended emotion, I guess.
No, that was Stanley's motion. I know
Okay.
exactly what he meant to say.
I'll second.
And perhaps we should put something on the webpage, a little overview, in case the newspaper misses what we're trying to do. They can actually be referred to the what.
Yeah, just contact Dartmouth Week. They'll get it right.
Yeah.
And then the Chronicle will report 3 months later.
Yeah,
if they report it at all.
But I know some people look to see what's going on in town on our website. So
Yes, that's important.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I think also with the link regarding the task force, put the link up to that NIOT.org.
Yep.
We need a vote.
Yeah, we had a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, I second.
Yeah, David second.
All right. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Tattelbaum.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would ask as now with the successful passage of your motion is maybe see if you could work with Sean and have somebody that would help with the facilitation of the committee. I'm a firm believer that any good committee has people on it that help with what we call the scut work that needs to get done and organizing the meetings and getting the agendas out and notifying people and all of that sort of thing. So, certainly if you can help in that regard, it'd be tremendous.
Sure.
I mean, we could look at once the task force is together, one of the members would volunteer to do that work, and we can certainly, if that's not the case, we can certainly help to host agendas.
Well, how about possibly an intern from UMass Dartmouth as well?
It might be tough as they're not in session. They
live locally.
We'll certainly ask. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
You're entirely welcome.
Way to go, Mike.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Thanks, Mike.
Ready. Take it easy, folks.
Thank
Stay
you,
healthy.
Michael.
Mr. Gagne.
Okay. Item F, Harbor Management Plan Implementation Committee. They all sit in the waiting room?
Nope, they're here.
There's two, yep. Hi, folks. How are you?
Good evening.
Is Patty with you folks too, or just you three? Just you two?
Her name is there. Patty, turn on.
Wake up, Patty. There she is. All right.
We're waiting in the wings with bated breath.
Long with his nap.
Steve is there.
Right. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
What? Yes.
Frank.
Just don't buy equipment some of the other people have bought it from, and you're good, Okay. Who wants to speak to this?
I guess I can start off and then I'll hand it over. But the board had voted a few weeks ago, or maybe more, to have a smaller committee put together to work on implementing aspects of the harbor management plan so that it can continue to move forward. Roger, Patty, and Steve and Dave Talbaum had gotten together to review the harbor management plan and come up with ideas to keep it moving forward, and a little priority list, and that's what's included in the packet. And I'll let Roger and Patty and Steve give more detail on that.
Yes, thank you very much, and we appreciate your time. What we'd like to do is basically get the blessing of the select board to have the motion made that we are charged with implementing this harbor plan. And I think having that, then we can go to other boards and other outside entities, one of which we're working with right now. Steve and I have set up a meeting with NOAA, who is going to provide for free an economic analysis of the harbor in the harbor area.
That's the magic word.
I know, free. I live for free. So I think that with your blessing, we'd like to you have this small, tight little group go forward and try to implement the plan, chunking right through the list, as I showed to Sean and to Dave, and then report back to you maybe every 90 days or so and say, this is what we've got done, this is how we're going to go forward, and work with other entities in town to make sure that this all is a cooperative and collaborative effort.
Okay, sound good?
Yeah.
Any questions from the group?
Nope. Looks like the charges and what they plan on doing is right there. Kind of, if we
Couldn't ask for a better
master
group.
plan too, this would be good too.
You put together a good group, Dave Tattlebaum.
I would just like to say that I think that it's a giant plan, and I could be, it's such a
That it
pleasure
is.
and honor to work with the three of you, because you have to go after stuff that's, really important and maybe easy to do and get it done. And then we can just keep going forward and keep picking things off. But it's a great group. And I think that, that some of the stuff may perk up some interest and maybe even a little bit of controversy, but I think we need to attack it with that in mind as a team, with good communication, getting back to the select board regularly, and make it a real team effort. And way back when I first met Steve, I was chair of the finance committee, and he said, if you don't have someone in charge of this ultimate plan, it will die. And we're not going to let it die, because we got a great group here and we're going to keep it going, but do it in a way that people are comfortable with it. They get the chance, the public gets to input into it, and then, keep forging policy ahead in a way that really works and makes sense for the most amount of people.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Steve Bliven really is the leader of the pack here. He's done this all his life and has some really good insights. Steve, maybe elaborate just for 1 minute on Nantucket and how great a job they did out there with this committee leading the charge.
Okay. The Urban Harbors Institute, where I was working at the time, worked with the town of Nantucket to do a harbor management plan. Came up with 325, 330 recommendations, considerably more than what landed up in the Peyton Aram Harbor Plan, because they had some many more issues to address. What they did once the plan was accepted by the town was establish a committee who sat down and went through each of the recommendations and the suggested implementing groups, met with all those implementing groups and said, here's what the plan said. Here's how we suggest you go about implementing it. And are you going to implement it? If you are not, if there's a reason not, what is the reason? If you are, what do you need for help? Do you need money? Do you need staff? Do you need expertise? Do you just need a kick in the butt? Whatever it takes to try and get this moving. And they spent a couple of years going through all those 325 recommendations, meeting with all the DPWs and the conservation commissions and the planning boards and private non-governmental entities, and worked through all of those and implemented probably 250 of them. The rest of them fell by the wayside, either as we don't really need this anymore, we've already addressed this issue in some other way, or where did this issue come from? How did it manage to get into the plan anyway? It's really silly. Whatever the reason was for not implementing it. So the town worked through that whole process and reporting back to the select board on a regular basis, writing up an annual report that went into the town annual report of here's who we are, here's what we're doing, and here's what's happening. And as Mr. Talbaum suggested, there were a couple of issues that caused a bit of friction, I guess would be a gentle way to put it. And they worked through it. In some cases, it fell by the wayside. In other cases, they fought their way through the friction and came up with a somewhat modified version. And in other cases, they just finally just kind of steamrolled it through. The important thing was that the committee itself wasn't doing the implementation. They were working with the groups that could do that, so that if one of the issues, for example, is the Dias Landing small boat marina question that's being worked on now, this committee would not do that, but would agitate for the Waterways Commission and other parties to get involved and actually do that. But this would be the group that would keep track of each of those recommendations, where they stand, who's doing it or not doing it, why they're doing it or not doing it. And if it's something where there's additional assistance needed, recommendations for a funding source or recommendations for taking it to town meeting or that sort of thing. So that's a quick overview of how Nantucket approached it and how we see this happening in Dartmouth.
Thank you, Steve.
That was good.
Excuse me, but how long did it take to implement, Steve? In Nantucket?
On Nantucket, some of the stuff is still in the process of being implemented after years and years. The recommendations that are in the Dartmouth plan, some of them are things that you could do with a stroke of the pen tonight, tomorrow night, just administrative changes. Other things are major infrastructure stuff. If you get into water quality issues, that requires finding out where the contamination is coming from. That's a monitoring scientific aspect. Then how to resolve that, which is what kind of infrastructure do you need? Then where are you going to get the money to do infrastructure changes if you need them? And then monitoring after that. So that's a multi-year, if not multi-decade project. Others are anywhere in between.
Thanks.
Okay. I think we need a motion and a vote to empower this committee to lead the charge for the harbor management plan.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Talabon.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Go forth and prosper.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your support.
Support.
Big three.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you.
Say that, Frank. It's going to go live long and prosper.
My fingers don't bend that way. My middle one keeps getting stuck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Ceases to amaze me.
Hey, if you can't have fun, then you might as well just roll up and die.
Yep. Okay. Next section here. We have the common vic licenses to.
Oh boy, what were you meeting without a common vic?
That's right. Well, the next one. The next
Very
one.
common.
You're nothing but a common vic.
I'm happy to report that all of the businesses are licensed. And everybody come in. I think next week we might have one. They came in to pay on Friday because of the weather on Thursday. But everyone has completed their application, paid, and needs to be approved.
So soon this will all go away.
Where's the word victualizer come from anyway? Victualer?
Look it up, David. Look it up.
You look it up. It comes to me.
Yeah, and report next week.
I can tell you, it comes from a military term for supplier, and the state statute had modified it for a business. So the original term is a military term for the supplier.
That's the best we could do, huh?
Yes.
Sounds good.
That's state. It's a very old statute.
Yeah, I guess so.
I can imagine.
Okay,
In the days of wooden teeth.
yeah. Okay, the ones to approve are Dunkin' Donuts, 575 Dartmouth Street, Java Shack, Cold Stone Creamery, Wild Honey, Sweet Kiwi, and the ones that are permanently closed are Ricardo's Country Store and Dartmouth Roast Beef.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Second, please.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Tattelbaum?
Yes,
Mr. Mickelson?
thankfully.
Yes, yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
And Mr. Herron?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Just on clarification, Dartmouth Roast Beef has indicated that they're going to close on the 28th.
Correct.
Yeah, I saw people in there today, and I know that they said they're going to be closing on the 28th. So that's Sunday.
Yeah. Well, they're usually not open on Sundays, so.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, I did see people in and out yesterday and today.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Old business. Mr. McGinnis, Bliss Corner update and COVID-19 update.
Bliss Corner, no new update. COVID-19, many of you have seen the news that the state has changed the vaccination plan. So they're going with just large-scale mass vaccination sites that are contracted through the state. It's no longer local boards of health. Just for public information, anybody that had gotten their first shot as part of the Town of Dartmouth Board of Health at the high school, or they will be notified of a second shot locally. So the towns are allowed to have clinics for the second dose of the vaccine. The 24th, Wednesday at Circuit City, you've seen in the news, Curative is the company that's contracted with the state to run that mass vaccination clinic. We're going to visit the site tomorrow to inspect it, the team of Dartmouth departments to make sure that everything's accessible, it's safe, and then the public can be able to get in and out of there efficiently. So we're hoping that's effective. We're happy that the state has chosen to have a mass vaccination clinic in town. It's better for the residents, and hopefully the online registration site gets a little more efficient and vaccines start to become more prevalent.
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, but in the globe lately, over the last week or so, there's been a lot of communities that are bitching is the word I want to use to the governor because they all had established local clinics or sites as we had, and they were all saying that it's much more efficient to do it locally with the people that are around you, and they know, and that's so. I don't know. Things may get changed again. The governor has promised that some of those things may come back, including hospital access, as things progress and the amount of vaccine is available. I know people at Hawthorne, which is part of Stewart, are not happy about the whole thing because they can't help their patients out, which to me seems like the logical place to start the thing and then expand as needed. But so stay tuned. Who knows what's going to be next week? At least we know what this week's going to be so far. And it clearly is very popular because when they announced that, it seemed like within 2 hours the place was already booked for as far as they could see because of what they had probably been promised. So sooner or later, I and anyone else that wants to will be able to get an appointment. I'm sure it may be summer, who knows, but I hope it's less than that. So okay.
A quick. I think the real problem is it's just not enough vaccinations, so they just minimize the place for distribution. John, is there a concern from the Board of Health that that building has been closed for so long, and in terms of it being, functional and cleaned and ready to go?
Well, that's why we're doing inspections. I know our safety officer, Sergeant Vieira, and Chris Michaud, I think they visited the site today. But Curative recommended that the rest of the committee, the review committee, go there tomorrow when they're more set up and ready to go. So we're going to have another team going out there tomorrow.
Great.
Well, the site was last used in October.
Yeah, bring your Halloween mask.
Yeah, that's the place where they sell the Halloween costumes.
Selling Halloween masks and having a clean place is.
I mean, I can understand. I mean, I've been talking to Representative Markey, and Chris Michaud regarding this issue over the last week, and talking to some other people. I can understand why the state is doing this. And a lot of it does have to do with the availability of the vaccines, but it's also, I guess it's making sure that the vaccines that are distributed are getting used in the manner that they're supposed to be used. There was that issue in Jamaica Plain where, a maintenance worker unplugged a freezer, and 2,200 doses were gone to waste. When they first started announcing the max vac sites, such as Gillette Stadium and the Reggie Lewis Center, I mean, that just made the absolute most sense possible to get the greatest number of people, because they can do a great large number of people. I think the problem is that I would say probably 50% of the people that are eligible for the site don't want to drive 45 minutes away to get the vaccine. And I just don't, I mean, I can understand that to a point, but at least if you're going to Gillette Stadium, you can kind of make a day out of it, get your shot, go shopping, go out to dinner, do something. I mean, there's plenty of stuff up to do. And as long as the weather's decent, that's the key. If this was done, if what was happening now was happening in the summer, I don't think people have a problem with driving. I think it's just the winter and people want to stay close. I understand that. And I know the town, the staff did a great job, the 2 Saturdays that they ran the clinic, just absolutely. And there was just, I didn't see one bad comment at all. Just nothing but positive. The way the people were treated, the way they were handled, the way they moved in and out, it was just absolutely fantastic. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that the state has decided to do this, but maybe as more vaccines become available, maybe more sites will open up. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. Hope the vaccine is the key. Hopefully it'll blossom.
Right.
Okay. I believe we have a set of minutes. Minutes for January 25th.
I didn't see anything, so I make a motion to approve.
Yeah.
Second.
I didn't see anything either. So, okay. Roll call. Mr. Tattelbaum.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, at the bottom of the package, I don't know if we need to make an announcement on this, but Bristol County Sheriff's Office, they have a program, Are You Okay? Which is basically a wellness check for seniors that apparently is in service. And people have an opportunity to join it if they want. Seniors that want to call to have them check on it, and it'll be a regular call. So people can find out.
I'll call you, Frank.
Sure. Because my answer machine lets me know who's calling. So anyway, people be aware of that it's there. There's people look it up. There's a phone number you can get involved in that program if you like. Okay. Anything else? Mr. McDonald?
Yes. Snow removal.
I'm in favor.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to go on a high horse and say, people should do their due diligence in getting the sidewalks removed. I want to make sure that if we take a stand that people have to do their sidewalks to make sure that they're removed, that the town does their properties too. And there have been some instances in the past where certain town-owned property hasn't been done. One of them, which is the causeway. It's getting who does the causeway, and second of all, where do you put the snow? You can't put it back in the water, and you can't put it back in the road. So it's got to be either removed or somehow that has somebody needs to work on that issue, because there are walkers, there are people, we don't want them, you know, we want them to use that for whatever reason they want, for their daily walks, their daily runs. We don't want them out in the streets. Same thing with Route 6. If you go by Route 6 right now, that same parcel of land that we've always had a problem with the brush, there's a broken tree that just is right now in the middle of the walkway. And there's just no access. Somebody has to get out of the walkway. Somebody has to walk on this road anyway, because the walkway is not shoveled. I would say probably 60% of the walkway on the south side of Route 6 from Lincoln Park to Stang is done. 40% is not. Eventually, and my understanding is some gentleman had called to complain, and they called the town, and the town said, well, that's the state problem. Let's not make it a state problem. Let's make it a problem that we take care of, because part of the parcel was the walkway from Midas to Dartmouth roast beef in front of the Pascamasket Little Park. That needed to be done. The problem is also when you have that Dartmouth roast beef plowing their parking lot, they put the snow right in the walkway, right at the end of the walkway. So somehow we need to relay the information to the property owners along Route 6, specifically with sidewalks, that they need to make sure that these walkways are used for pedestrian use. Same thing with Cross Road from Crossroad Apartments to Walmart. There are several seniors in that development that go to Walmart. They either walk or they use their little scooters devices to go there. The walkway is not done. The library wasn't done at some point in time. And specifically when you get closer to Walmart, Walmart doesn't get done. And people, so we need to emphasize at some point in time, each year, at the beginning of the year, beginning of the season, sometime around November, we need to send out just a general letter to everybody, every single unit owner, that, that people do, you got to do this, and especially when they start doing the sidewalks on Route 6, it's just, people walking out in the road. It happened. There were 4 people today coming into work, 4 people in the road because they can't walk on the sidewalk. It's just not, it's not fair to them. It really isn't. And I don't want to see another accident there. I don't want to see an elderly person in a scooter on Crossroad getting whacked by a vehicle, or anything, or somebody, or a veteran, or somebody who lives at Monroe Housing, wanting to go to Stop and Shop, and they have to step out into the Route 6 to because the town didn't do the sidewalk, or one of the businesses there didn't do the sidewalk. That's totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable.
One of those places I used to get calls about for a couple of years in a row was down by Solomar. People wanted to go up to Dartmouth Street to do some local shopping and stuff. They had to walk out in the on the street because the sidewalk wasn't cleared. So after a couple of years of making calls, that problem seems to have disappeared because I haven't had a call in over a year now. So,
I remember when I was on the school committee, the biggest problem was the sidewalks along Slocum Road, and it almost got to the point where I was just telling, I was telling the maintenance staff, you do in front of the middle school, You know, just go all the way. Go all the way to Route 6. Who cares? You know, because just that road, the walkway is servicing our kids. You know, especially the ones who walk. You know, well, you know, we really can't. I don't care. Get it done. One way or another. Get it done.
Anyone else?
I was just, I think early season reminder, and maybe a mailing of some kind that goes to townwide mailing is energy bills, water bills. That isn't there? They have a legal obligation to shovel in front of their homes or businesses. Is it legal?
It's a
What is it?
Yeah, we have a bylaw.
Okay, so I think that we send out some kind of notice in October, November, early December, along with the mailing, the slip sheet that says to remind them that it's illegal not to clear your sidewalk. I was on Dartmouth Street last week, and I would say we walked up street, and I would say 25 to 35, 40% of the sidewalks were not shoveled, and it's dangerous as hell. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's that way everywhere. I think Mother Nature will take care of it, unfortunately.
I mean, the days of Mayor Charles Ashley in New Bedford are gone.
Remember what he said?
You know what he said?
Yeah, I
God
know.
put it there. God can take
God's
it away.
going to take it away.
I guess people had to be retrained this year because we didn't have any snow the last couple of years. So they figured-
Yeah, they all
I
got
think
caught
so.
off guard, sure. But that's not an answer.
No.
Unfortunately, that's terrible.
It's
And
an
that's just not stepping up to the plate and doing the right thing for your neighbors.
Yep.
And keeping them all safe.
Do we have any mailings out in the next 30 days that are going out already, paid for by the town?
I mean, now we're approaching March, and the
Yep.
forecast for the future doesn't look like much snow.
Okay.
I don't know how effective. I agree with what you said earlier. It's probably better to do in the
Yeah,
late.
yeah.
We can have a special snow mailing, you know, envelopes with little snowflakes on it, so everybody knows what it's about. You know,
Shovels, put shovels on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Shovels from big value outlet. Coupons.
You can get $5 off your shovel.
If you send us a picture of your sidewalk, shovels.
Yeah, and win a shovel. Yeah.
God help us.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll need a motion to
adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Sean, can you just hold on a minute? Sean, not you, Sean, McGinnis.
Yeah. Yep.
I know you don't want to talk to me, Stanley.
That's true.
Okay.
Only when needed.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Motion and a second. Mr. Talabam.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes.
Mr. Herron.
Yes.
And me. Yes. We are adjourned.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Nice job, guys.